Hope everybody's had a chance to look those over.
I have a change.
I'm sorry?
I have a change to the minutes.
You have a change to the minutes, all right?
Item 14 is change the date from 30 August to 30 September.
Oh,
Good catch.
okay.
Hey, how are you?
I make a motion we accept the minutes as amended.
Huh?
You have a second?
Oh, yeah. Good picture. Second.
Okay. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
You?
Again, I make a comment on the calendar, upcoming events. There's no CAC meeting scheduled in October, but I assume there is one.
Oh, that's a
26.
gift.
I
Halloween,
noticed
we
the
always,
same.
we always,
At least it's not on there, but I'm assuming it's just an oversight.
Okay, we'll be talking about that. We do have it, if you notice on the agenda, it's October 28th, according to
28th.
your agenda.
Have we done the minutes already, Joe?
Yes, we have. Did you have a change other than
What?
the
Than the
correction
date?
of the date?
Yeah, nope, that was it.
Brother Creeley caught that.
Pardon?
Brother Creeley caught that. Okay, I'm going to channel Bob Baker for just a second here. Reporting from the board meeting on, gosh, when was the date on that? Anyway, earlier this month. The board did approve the 2040 Specialized Transportation and Transit Plan. It approved the draft Moving Forward 2040 Regional Transportation Plan, and it approved TIP Amendment Number 3 from last month's discussion. For information, they introduced and welcomed the new CDOT Region 2 Commissioner, Nolan Schreiner, with comment, and I don't know who made it, but this was a good outcome for the Pikes Peak region. Introduced Joe Urban as the new Area Agency on Aging Director for the Council of Governments. Craig Casper informed the board about the administrative modification approving TIP Amendment 4 regarding Charter Oak Ranch Road at Gate 19 for Fort Carson. As was done at the CAC last time, the board discussed a list of priority projects going forward, and I guess just discussed it. Was there any pertinent comments with regard to that? Nope.
No.
Okay. The board did discuss the not one penny extra, and we'll be touching on that a little later in our agenda, the no probe policy in light of the 47% cost escalation of previously approved projects during the 2010 to 2014 time period, leaving those projects underfunded. The discussion focused on no new projects in 2019, thus using the allocated dollars to backfill, which, if I recall correctly, has been a discussion that we've been involved in for several months. And then Bob reported on your discussion of the possible e-town hall, allowing for greater citizen participation. Andy Pico spoke favorably of the city's use of a town hall process, though not an electronic one. And concerns fell on the question of resourcing, since all dollars flowing through the Council of Governments are earmarked for specific purposes. So that remains an open issue as far as I can tell. Is there anything else that you can think of from that?
No, I
That we need to be aware of?
always
Okay.
thorough. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments or passing thoughts on that? Okay, so far so good. Next up, Scott Phillips. I saw him a minute ago. He's hiding now. On item 6, the TIP Amendment Number 5. Scott, you're on.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Phillips, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, Senior Transportation Planner. The Amendment Number 5 is, I guess it's exciting news for the region. We are receiving approximately $930,000 from the FASTER program for 4 projects, 2 of which are with Mountain Metro Transit, and the last 2 are with Silver Key Senior Services. Primarily, most of the funding is going towards vehicle replacement for each of those agencies and programs. And the TAC recommend approval for this, and we request your approval for adding these funds and moving forward with these 4 projects for both Mountain Metro and also Silver Key.
Question?
What's the local match?
Local match will be coming from, Silver Key will be providing their local match, and Mountain Metro will be using local funds from their local.
So they're bringing that.
They have
there.
Rogered up for that they will match those.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Excellent.
That was your question, Al?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
sure.
Courtney?
If the van pool is currently functioning at capacity, or, are they using all the vehicles they currently have, such as if they need to replace them?
Typically, I haven't asked that question. It's a great question. I can get an answer for you on that. It's not a problem. I'll inquire. Typically, when they go in for vehicle replacement, what it is they're reaching the end of their service life. So for vans, that's typically about 5 or 6 years, or about 500,000 miles. So I would imagine when they went in for the application, this is before I was here, that they had vehicles that were reaching their service life, into their service life. So I would imagine it's the same, but I can get an answer. I can make the inquiry and get an answer for you on that.
I know the van pool numbers are increasing, like they're going up, but I also drive by transit
Sure.
fairly often during the day, and the parking lot is filled with vans, which is no indication of the fact that peak hours, they're not all being used. That might be the case, but I'm just curious if all of it,
Sure.
of all of the priorities, if we need, if the vans are being required, or just the recycling them through in preparation for more.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I had a question, and related to what Courtney was asking. Are these are the same size vehicles then? They're just doing replacement ones?
Correct. It's into service life vehicle replacement. So
So what happens to the ones that aren't being used?
with regards to,
Well, if I'm going to go get a new car, which I
sure.
don't ever do, I've still got to get rid of an old car. So what happens to the old vans?
Those vehicles, multiple things can happen. I can get a direct answer from, I'll inquire directly from each of the agencies, but typically they'll get recycled and sold.
So the agency just keeps whatever they make on
They
selling?
they can forward the money, but they typically get recycled and sold, and for whatever the value of the vehicle that they can get out of it. So
I was
Yeah,
curious as to what
sure.
happens.
sure, and I can get you a better answer than that too.
Vince?
Is there any reason whatsoever the staff has that we should disapprove this? Any reason?
No.
Got it.
It's additional funding. This is coming from the FASTER. The funding comes from FASTER, which is the state program, and that's for the license, the registration fees and so on and so forth. So it's state dollars coming back to the region, being reinvested for positive calls, which is the transit for the region.
Since we've got 2 open questions.
Sure.
That kind of need addressing. When the minutes are published, can we do an addendum with the answers to those 2 questions and see if we have any others? I don't know if that's been done before.
Okay, so Courtney's and to Jen's question.
Yes, please. Okay. Motion on the,
So moved, that we
Second.
approve it?
any further
Recommend approval.
discussion?
Recommend approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
7 is
Mr. Casper, who will be there for a while today.
We're switching back.
Oh, okay. Sharing the wealth.
Yes. When we built the 2016 to 2019 tip, what we did instead of doing a call for projects, we just took all the 2019 money and sprinkled it back on the projects 15, 16, 17, and 18 to make them whole because of the extraordinary cost increases that had occurred 47% from 2010 to 2014. What Amendment 6 is, there were other projects that were funded earlier than the TIP years that we allowed the 19 money to be used in. And so the local entities, we asked, well, what projects, that predate this unusual task or unusual inflation, and how much do you need? So the local entities submitted the 6 projects that they thought they needed money for, totaling $3.2 million. And at the TAC meeting, they thought it would be a good idea to just make that an amendment and give the money to those projects directly as requested. And then at a future time, we'll come back and administratively change to make the funding work, because some of these projects, the funds are sprinkled in different years. And so what we're going to end up with is sort of a patchwork of projects and when the funds are. And we'll need to resolve that at some future date. So that's the TAC recommended amendment number 6 to fund those 6 projects for $3.2 million.
Oh, there we go, okay. Discussion?
So is the project total what the original cost was? Or does
Yes.
that include the additional funds?
No, that was what the original
So
cost
that
was.
was the original cost. So in general, what's the process when you've got a project that's slated for a year, you've got money allocated, and it doesn't happen? What are they supposed to have done, and how do they fall through the cracks?
Well,
I mean,
and
you know,
That was
not that
It's-
I don't want to approve them, but
yeah,
how do they?
extensions.
once they get obligated, they in the past they've come off of our radar at PPACG. They're between CDOT and the local entity staff at CDOT and the local entities. And as long as they're obligated, then the assumption is they're moving forward. I'm going to pick on a project now at some risk. The Falcon Park and Ride is a 2008 project that has been sitting there not doing anything since 2008. For various reasons, some of them very, very good reasons. What should have happened in that case, because we knew, El Paso County staff, because that's the project, that project wasn't going to go forward in the immediate future. That money should have actually been returned to the pool, and the project delayed, moved out to the end year, and then those funds that were available now given to another project. Local entities don't like to do that. They like to keep the money there because CDOT will sit on it like it's a bank account.
So they haven't lost that money.
Not yet. The actual federal rules do not really allow that. And the feds, we got notification. Yeah, we got So we got notification last week actually that all those projects, old projects, are going to start. They have to be in our TIP actively from now on, so that they have a profile. So
How does this conversation relate to item
The next
8?
item. The next item.
and that is.
Extension.
The delay.
Project
Delay.
delay status.
These projects have, well, this is, how do, they relate, they're bivariate. These projects, you have, the note policy needs to be waived in order for these projects to get money. And these projects are all delayed because none of these projects happened when they were supposed to. But the delay policy as it was written is more about getting projects obligated. All these projects have been obligated, but they got obligated and then they stopped. They didn't go forward. And that's pointing out a nuance in our delay policy that probably needs to be spackled over so that it doesn't, these projects don't fall through anymore.
Would it be better to talk about the next item before we talk about this item?
That's the pleasure of the committee, so.
Because that's the policy we're talking about, and this is an implementation of that policy.
Yes,
Okay?
What's the total of additional funds being?
3.2 million,
That's the additional total?
yes.
That's a lot.
So, Jen?
I had a question, Craig, about, are these, with all these projects, once those additional funds are committed, and those are coming out of the 2019?
It's various years. We have some money that's been returned that's available now, some money in 2018, most of it is, the vast majority of it is in 2019, so.
So none of the funds that are needed to complete these projects, then, they won't exceed that amount of money?
Correct.
Okay.
It's almost like they knew how much to ask for.
Imagine that. So with these projects, do they have to start within a certain amount of time?
These
now?
projects should all have been started years ago.
I know, but now that they've got additional funds, there's really no good, what'd you call
Well,
it, external excuse delay?
Correct, except that the funds are in 2019,
Yeah,
and it's 2016 now. It's actually 2016 now, so.
yikes.
To Vince's question, well, I'll let you ask a question, or move,
I'm not
or
sure
do
what
whatever
the
you're going to do.
procedural, how do we swap agenda items? Because this should be discussed before this.
Well, no,
don't
I
think
need
we
to
need
clarify something on that. Go ahead, Roger.
I had a question, or no, actually, I wanted to get a motion on to accept this, so we could discuss it.
Okay,
Because
okay.
staff
Under
had a
Robert's
reason
rules.
for doing it this way, or if it dies for lack of a second, then we can have a motion to discuss number 8 or 9.
Well, let me,
Flip it
before we go there, if I could just ask a question. Is there a project delay status policy in place today?
Yes.
Okay. Is what is proposed as the next item on our agenda, is that a modification or a reinforcement?
Reinforcement.
Reinforcement. Okay, I will entertain a motion to delay voting on this and go to let's go to the next item on the agenda and come back to this item after that discussion.
I move we handle the next item on the agenda prior to this item, and this item becomes the next item, just swapping them.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? No further discussion, sorry. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay.
I abstain, Mr. Chairman.
And I oppose.
I don't vote no against it, but I abstain.
All right. Okay, we have two opposed to that. All right, can we understand what's going on with this delay? Since there seems to be a feeling we need to understand that.
Sure. Again, Scott Phillips, PPACG, Transportation Planner. What we're bringing before you, this is the policy that was adopted with the 16 tip and also with the 13 tip. This is the delay policy. And the idea behind that is that if there is a delay with a sensible justification for it, they can, our agencies can come to us and
Underline sensible.
sensible. Well, and they can be, delays can be based on a number of things. I mean, whether it be, there might be engineering issues, there might be right-of-way issues that were unforeseen that will delay a project. Weather, we might have a deluge, build an ark, and we might have a deluge of rain. So there are a number of issues that can justifiably provide a delay. The idea behind this is that so we know what's going on also. So we can come back and provide you, the CAC and the TAC, updates with regards to project status, and if they are delayed, why are they being delayed? Is there a rational justification for the delay? Or is it like, oh, we didn't get around to the paperwork? Well, is that a rational justification? So the idea of this is to be able to have this mechanism to provide updates for both CAC, TAC, and our board, as well as for ourselves, so we know what's going on, and we can be prepared so we don't lose the funding that's out, the scant funding that we get for a region, that we can use that appropriately and maximize our opportunities. So the idea behind this, and much like what Craig is, what we discussed about before, is thus getting, how do we get these projects advanced if there is a delay? How do we do it? You've got to look at, how do you push it out? Is there room for it out here? Pull a project back? And again, it's the horse trading that has to go on afterwards too. But it ultimately, this policy is to, and I don't know how hard it was previously followed, but it's just to make sure that everybody's up to date, everybody has an understanding of where things are, and if there is a delay, we have a policy that provides the outline and detail of the process that will take place to request a delay and move forward.
Okay, now, before we discuss, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve agenda item, where's the label on that?
Under your thumb.
Oh, agenda item 8,
Okay, and recommend
and
adoption by
recommend to the
okay.
Board of Directors
We have a
to
second,
accept
we have a
this.
second here. Okay, floor is open for discussion. Jen?
So Scott, who gets to decide or make the command decision that it is a rational, sensible reason, thereby not holding up funding from other projects?
Sure. What we would do is, it would be provided to us by the agent, by the agency. We would bring it to the TAC, bring it to you guys, to the CAC, and also to the board. And the justification, here, it's going to be black and white. It's going to be on paper. And it's really, is there, when we say rational, what is rational? Is it, I didn't do the paperwork? Is that really a justification for for delaying? Or is it because paperwork was delayed, CDOT, there were right-of-way issues that were unforeseen, maybe there was rain, flooding, other things, other needs. Maybe they needed to shift focus because of other natural issues, that disasters or emergencies that might have had. Things like that would seem like they're justifiable. If it's, I didn't do the paper, and I've run in this in the past and lost millions, so watch people lose millions of dollars for the reason because we didn't do the paperwork. Then move right ahead, So the idea is just kind of for us, for us as an agency to have a better eye on better understanding and an eye on what's going on. And if there's also anything we can do to assist to help facilitate projects to move forward.
So the bottom line is that you guys will ride herd over these projects probably more tightly
Yeah.
if this occurs. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
It seems fairly clear that this policy was generated here because the feds are insisting upon it.
Sure. Yes.
Really want this done, and I can understand a year's delay and then an option for a second year's delay.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But looking back to 2008, it's either the policy exists,
Yeah.
and as it should be, or it doesn't exist, and it's just smoke and mirrors that somebody,
Sure.
come up with some sort of fluffy answer. That just seems to me
Well, the
policy or
idea is,
not.
if you have the policy, you need to enforce it. You need to go by what it said. In the past, for whatever reason, why these projects were delayed, we got a little bit of an answer on a couple of them from the TAC. A couple of them were CDOT had not processed the paperwork. They were sitting on issues. That delayed the project, which is understandable.
That seems to be understandable.
And that seems to be the most of them. That seems to be the biggest issue is getting through the obstacle course that is getting your contracts with CDOT.
wasn't available.
And
That seems to me to be a very reasonable
Sure.
answer.
Sure.
I get the feeling that there's fluff in some of them too, like, it's.
A little bit of cold in my mind.
There can
Answer
be.
the question, are these really good projects?
Scott, this policy attachment here is the existing policy today.
That is the policy that was adopted with the 2016 TIP. And
Okay, then the list of projects that's attached.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand what it is that's coming before this committee and what we're expected to do.
Okay, two things. The project report, what was supposed to have happened is that the local entities came and requested that the policy be,
Waived.
the projects be delayed so that then they can roll the projects forward. That happened as a tip amendment previously, which is why the TAC recommended that it just go to the board and as an information item instead of a approval item, because it's supposed to be approved, but it was already approved. And the second part is the 17 to 22 tip. Is this a policy that we want to maintain? We pretty much have to. So, but what do we want to do to refine it? And I guess, as somebody said, make sure ride herd on the projects better. So.
And also, your question about what the attached project list was, this is a listing of all projects from the previous TIP that were rolled forward that were not implemented. They did not take place and the paperwork hasn't gone through, or they've been delayed for whatever. This is an entire list of the rollovers that we currently have for the region.
So this is the 2015, 2018 TIP roll forward projects.
Correct.
Yeah, these are the 2015 projects that didn't get done in 2015. They're going to put added to the 2016 list of projects.
So this is a list of existing within the last 12 months. And again, it's the first 12 months on a delay, agencies can come to us and ask, and we'll just move forward and we'll roll them over. The second time, if they haven't gotten to move forward, next year we hope not to have a list like this to bring.
But they've
forward.
already gone to the board for approval?
These are projects that were initially just rolled over, and they were rolled over in the initial tip. So yes, they went through all our committees, and as well as board approval when you adopted the 13 tip.
Then there's nothing to do here, right?
Basically, it's the policy. Do you guys want to move forward with this and incorporate this policy for the 17 to 22 tip?
I'm a little slow on the pickup here, so let me play back what I've heard, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong.
Sure.
Okay?
Right. Where you're
What
right.
I've heard is that there has been a policy in effect,
Correct.
and as a result of that policy, the board has already approved rolling forward a set of projects that conform with the policy as it exists.
Correct.
In a few moments, we are going to look at another set.
Correct.
Now, who holds this set or any set up against the policy and says it does or does not meet the criteria? Because when I read through the policy, it looked to me that after 2 extensions, there is a gun that goes off, and the money is released to go to some of these other projects that we see, because we never have enough money for all the projects.
Correct.
So, am I missing something in here? I mean, it sounds to me as though there has been, if we've got something from 2008, there are projects that have languished because that money was not released. And who's really controlling the money?
Those projects that have been obligated, there has not been, in the past, the control at the regional level at PPACG. It's, once they get obligated, we've passed it off to CDOT and assume that the projects got done.
Would you define obligated?
Actually, I would love to if I could, but I honestly don't understand the nuance in all the different terms, and I swear that CDOT, people who understand that change the definitions. No, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I actually asked about 5 years ago if I could get CDOT to give me a straight-up definition of everything. They said they would, but they never have. I've asked a couple more times. Yeah, it's in obligated. My understanding is once they're obligated, they are put into the federal, or they're put into CDOT's system. They've got the paperwork. They've got their IGA approved. That's the IGA has been approved, so the money is obligated and ready to be budgeted. So,
Craig, one quick related question. If you have a 2008 project, just as like if you're trying to buy a car in 2008, and you tried to buy the same car in 2015, there's a real good chance that the cost went up.
yes.
Okay, so,
Money now is worth more than money later.
huh?
Money now is worth more than money later.
Well, no, the opposite.
No?
The
You
value
can
of
buy more.
money has declined, the individual dollar has declined over
Right, so the money now is worth more than money later.
Okay, so I guess because like the park and ride didn't get expanded in 2008, is that why it's, where'd you figure out how, 80% higher?
80% more expensive.
80% more expensive.
I mean, just about everything here, if I'm
Well,
doing the math
and that's
right.
what I was just looking at it, and I actually made a note to myself that what you see is the total requested and then the federal funds. It's not the previous number. We need to get what the previous funding is. So the first number is the total project funding requested. The second number is the total federal funds additional needed. And we don't have listed there, a lot of cases, because they're not in our tip anymore, what the original number is. We'll have to dig back through the old tips to find them.
So could it be more than 80% increase?
It could be. I would,
Yeah.
yeah, I also don't know what they are. I mean,
Just thinking about the logic there. Well, that's the thing, because I mean, if in fact you look at this, every project is requiring 80% additional funds, plus or minus.
so,
Okay. Mr. Baker, return sanity, please.
Yeah. Who is responsible for pulling the trigger on the policy?
the board. The board is the only decision maker.
And then the time frame is that it has to go to the TAC and the CAC, and we recommend
To them,
to
yes.
them. Well, why was there no recommendation on something that has languished since 2008? What
Because these projects aren't in our TIP anymore. But what our past policy is done, and last week Federal Highway pointed out that it's wrong, we can't do that, is once they've got obligated, we just dropped them out of our TIP. We didn't even roll them forward. They were obligated, so we assumed they were moving forward. And so those projects fell off. What we have been rolling forward are projects that have not yet been obligated. So that's why the list of projects you see are the ones that we rolled forward from 15 into 16.
So would it be fair to say, and it's not an accusation of anything that the staff has done historically, is that basically, once the obligation occurred, PPACG basically ignored the project and walked
Yeah.
away?
Yeah,
Didn't provide adequate oversight and control to make sure that the project was completed and or rolled forward?
Right, we never thought that was part of our mission. We assumed that once the projects were obligated, that CDOT and this local entity would see them done.
I know I'm not a voting member, but I do have a question. So what I understand from what you're saying is that this is going to now give you oversight over these
I really don't like
somewhat, but it gives us the voting power to stop some of these delayed projects.
Well,
Make noise.
yeah, make some noise. What
Recommend, yeah.
would be, what I would like to see, what I want to see done is money spent. And if a project can't spend the money this year, give it to a project that can, and then take the project that can't spend the money this year and give them next year or the year after, whenever they can spend the money.
Exactly.
That's ultimately what we want to see done, is spending money. Woo!
Thank you.
So,
Vince?
Just a little clarification on obligation. I worked projects in the Air Force, and when Congress would approve a project, they authorized it. You had no money. So they said, hey, that's a good project. We've got this much in projects. And then all of a sudden, the appropriation guys came in, and they said, we're going to provide funds for it. And this amount was funded. And that money was given to us to obligate. And to obligate meant that you had a contract on it.
right.
That is a point in time where the money is put against a project, and you couldn't de-obligate it without canceling the contract. So I'm not sure if that's the same
Nope,
way
it's-
you're looking at
There's
it.
an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement between CDOT and the local entity is what obligates the funds. They're not yet budgeted. Budget is I think it's the next step. Is that right, Brian? I think, yeah, after obligation is budgeting. And, yeah, and then
So
there's
you obligate
encumbered
before
and-
you have the money, or you have the money when you're
Well,
obligated?
the money is, once it's obligated, it's in the bank at CDOT. So those, like the 2008 funds, the Falcon Park and Ride 2008 project, those funds have been sitting in CDOT's bank account since 2008.
So,
But time has passed, and it's not enough money to complete the project.
Exactly.
That's what we're really saying.
Yes.
So then we get into
Not at
the
current
nope
interest rates.
situation.
Yes, yes.
right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Does that help?
I really think this horse is breathing very shallowly.
I was going to say one other thing. I think it's also important to note that these are projects that have surpassed the second year. These are way out there, right, from 2008, 2010, or whatever. So with the policy that is before you, the first year they would come to us and we'd give you an information item, update you, oh, they're asking for a delay for a year. The second year, we would be bringing it for everybody for your input. They've been delayed a second year. Now, I don't know, I'm not aware of why a 2008 project is still sitting out there. In 2008, I was in California. So, But I can tell you right now, these are just projects, they've been languishing out here, and they're requesting they want to move, they're finally ready to move forward. So that's why we're bringing it, because this is way past the standard, even 2-year delay request. This is a 4-year delay, or a 6-year delay. So the request coming towards you on that item.
Item 8.
That item is for these 6 projects. The funds are obligated. They are not encumbered, and they're just obligated. So they're sitting there, and like Craig said, they're not. Once they move forward, they're committed, and once they start building against it, then they're encumbered.
So
This is agenda item 8.
Yeah, so I will try to bring us back to agenda item 8, which is, okay, so one of the things, staff, we failed to adequately, when we did the roll forward, all the projects were a 1-year roll forward, so it's pretty standard, especially when you're dealing with CDOT. A 1-year delay is actually more standard operating procedure.
Okay.
So we did not do the report at that time or look at any 2-year delays. And so we did just a roll forward, and we failed to bring that to attention of the TAC and CAC at that time and to the board, that what we're requesting here is all these projects have hit their 1st-year delay. We did not find any 2-year delays in the getting obligated part.
Okay.
And that's where our policy had stopped in the past, was the obligation. What we are now finding out, and it's best exemplified by the previous agenda item that will be the next agenda item also, is that after obligation, projects have not been moving forward and are still subject to the delay and having the funds removed. And so for those 6 projects that requested money, they actually have to get the note policy waived and the project delay policy pointed out that these are not following our delay policy.
Okay.
And so some sort of commitment and time frame. Something else that, well, I guess I won't, not to pile on yet.
I think
All of, yeah.
I'm going to call the question. There is a motion on the floor to accept this and move forward to be recommended to be reemphasized by the board. I think I've captured the essence of it, if not the exact language. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
Now back to
Okay, now,
Now back.
before we move back to item
7.
which is tip amendment 6, which you have no idea how confused I got on that one. 2 observations. One is Vince's comment about how the federal government worked just really resonated with me, and the problem with allocating money and how it gets worked out. In my brief time with this organization, it seems to me that we owe it to some of the projects that we have not been able to fund to really be studious in implementing and following up on this policy. And for our part of it, that we need to, I think, instill a mechanism whereby we know that each year, once a year, or whatever, we are getting a specific input that says, yes, here's where we are with this policy for this year.
A watch list would really be
Yeah.
good.
So, and that's one thing we did not hear on these 6 projects as to why they have gone over budget or why they are delayed. I have some ideas. The Cannon and Park Avenue Bridges repair, those are, I think that's a 2010 or 11 project, 2010 project. They were getting ready to do the repair, and then there was a fire. And then they were getting ready to do the repair, and there was a flood. And that flood actually did some more damage to what they were getting ready to repair.
Okay.
They went out for bid last year to try to get a bid on it, and they didn't get within $1 million of what they had available. So that's why so in that particular case, I know that, but that's only because I've had offline conversations. Some of these other projects, I really don't know why there's been a delay or cost overrun.
Okay, well, let me, Michelle, before you get started, can we have a motion on, this is agenda item 7, which is tip amendment 6, before we begin the discussion, please?
I move we reject
Motion is
this.
just a motion that opens the discussion. Sir?
I heard.
I was going to make a motion that we reject this item, but
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now the floor is open for discussion on the motion. So we understand something about the Cannon and Park Avenue Bridge repair issue. Michelle?
What is the option for these projects if we don't approve this? I mean, what would they do?
The local entities, by contract, have to finish the projects as scoped. So they would have to pay for the projects out of their own local funds, or pay back the federal funds they've used.
So they can't basically start over in the process?
No. They either pay back the federal funds they've used, or complete the original scope with local funds.
Jim?
Craig, so is it my understanding, based on what you said earlier, though, is this is not necessarily, approving this does not necessarily mean that these projects will go forward? My understanding, just because, so you can understand what I heard, my understanding was that if you guys go back and do your, some little more due diligence on the cause for the delays, and you decide that that doesn't cut it, we really need to move this money to a different project, that you have some room to come back to the CAC and TAC and say, because of X, we recommend that this project not be completed, or is this a done deal?
If this is approved, those projects will get the funding, and I don't know when they'll be done, because
Or when they'll start?
Or when they'll start, because some of the funds are in 2019. So, worst case scenario, the Falcon Park and Ride, the 2008 project, happens in 2019, or actually probably 2020, because it takes a year to get the contract.
Which is 11 years later.
And that's assuming they even actually get off the ground, since they never did before.
Kevin, let's do Kevin and Alan, and okay, Kevin.
We have a policy that asks these project proponents to tell us why they were delayed, so I'm wondering if anything came across as to why these were delayed.
There was no discussion about that at the TAC.
Okay, so we're now in violation of the policy we just recommended, because we don't have any idea as to why these were delayed?
Again, they're getting into that nuance of, these projects have all been obligated, but then they stopped, and so our delay policy and the way we had been implementing it didn't come into account on these projects. So it's only with the recent federal highway discussion that we found out that, yes, they all actually are technically delayed projects also.
So we also have one date. We had the Falcon Park and Ride as 2008. Do we have dates for these other ones when they were approved?
Yeah, we do have them. We have to dig through the records. Like the Cannon and Park, those bridges are 2010. The Five Points Roundabout is probably about a 2011 or 2012 project. But we do have all these projects and their dates. So that's some information that we can provide.
And what is HES?
That's a safety project. It's highway elimination safety, hazard elimination safety project, hazard elimination money.
Okay, Alan is next, and then we'll move around.
It's a comment, I guess, more than a question, but I thought with all the work we had done with the TIP plan for years 2015 through 2019, that we understood that 2019 was the fund catch-up year. And I'm not quite sure where the money is in that year for us theoretically to even entertain picking up what's fallen off the list.
Those 2019 funds, we did not have in the years when we created the 16 to 19 TIP, the funding years, the projects that needed more money totaled less than the funds that were available. And so this is actually correcting that, or getting the additional funds for these projects that are predate the years that were allowed to be funded with those additional funds.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, Harold?
Yeah, one comment, and that would be that we spend a lot of time looking at projects and trying to do a good job on the TIP preparation, obviously with guidance from yourselves and staff. these are projects that I have absolutely no information about, and at least visually, they look like they're an 80% or a significant cost increase. My question, so that's my comment. My question is, there are 6 projects here. Is this a portion of a big, long list of delayed projects? Is it 6 of 6 projects?
It's a portion of a lot of them. The information conversation we had with CDOT about all these obligated projects that haven't been moving forward, it looks like there's about a dozen and a half, 18 to maybe 20 of them. So this is a portion of those that have just, they got obligated and then they sat.
And I'm sorry, am I correct that based on the new policy, any projects that aren't on this list are not going to come back to us in the future?
No, we will be in October or November, we'll be bringing all those projects that were obligated and have not had any expenditures. The TAC and CAC and the board are going to see those for specific action per federal highway. So,
Greg, does that mean that we'll get, as Howard just indicated, another pass at getting information about each? You're going to bring us up to date again?
that's the hope, yes.
Thank you.
We'll
Have
ask.
At least another dozen more just like this?
Yes.
That want money as well?
Yes.
Courtney?
Oh, I mean, comment, I guess I'm hugely uncomfortable with this. The lack of information, I think, is not appropriate. I can't make a decision on what we have for sure. But I was also going to ask specifically, you said if we voted not to approve this, the options are that they have to pay back what they spent on the project or pay for it out of their own funds, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any idea how much they've already spent on these projects?
None.
So if we voted not to approve it, and all of these projects have been sitting and no funds have been spent, they're not going to have to pay anything back. It's just they don't get a project going through that they didn't obviously invest that much in anyway if it's been sitting there for 6 years.
And those funds then would come back for redistribution, so.
Just as a point of clarification, just to remind everybody, we're not making the decision.
That's right.
I can sleep better at night on that basis. Okay, let's see. We're just going to continue around. Go ahead.
Greg, for all of these 6 projects, has there been an IGA?
Yes.
So why is this an issue for CAC and PPACG? Why isn't it kind of an issue between CDOT and the governmental agency involved?
Because PPACG, these are PPACG funds, and we are the entity that is tasked with enforcing the delay policy. CDOT is not. CDOT is actually the ones who, when we don't enforce it, will write us up in our certification. So.
And they need more money to keep going.
So.
Vince?
A couple of questions. Oh, next? You're next.
No, he's the chairman.
But you were going around this way.
Well, it's, Mr. Chairman
We're fine
decides
for
who
right
to
now, 'cause
speak.
you had your
I
hand
raised
up
my
before,
hand.
and Roger
Go
was
right ahead.
next. and then-
Okay.
All right, Roger,
For example,
Fran, Bob.
For example, it says Woodman Road. There were 3 projects on Woodman Road of recent. One was CDOT on the interstate, where they did the Woodman Road interchange. There was also a PPRTA project that had to do with the interchange at Academy in Woodman. And there was also, that was a city.
That was actually a
City.
federal grant. We got $20 million of ARA money for that.
I think there was some city money involved, and there was some other, there's a whole bunch of money
Yep.
that was put in there.
Right.
And then there was a county from Powers all the way out to Meridian.
Right.
It was done about the same time. So when you say Woodman Road, yeah.
I think this is the CFI at Union, but that is just based on overhearing other
And there's a fourth
conversations.
one,
Yeah, that'd be a 4th project, yeah. So I honestly don't know what specific that.
The costs that we have here, the project totals,
Well, that project total, that's the total they requested. So that's one of the
so
things.
we
that-
don't know what the original was.
I don't know, yeah, we have not dug back through the old
There's
tips.
a
to
delta
find-
there.
Right,
of
we don't have that.
Original and whatever else. And then to Ellen's point, we talked about 16 through 19, and 19 being the overflow. 16 through 18, I don't think we have the total inflation on those projects at this point on all of those. So what we're doing is we're saying, well, we're going to take money out of 19, but we may not have enough money once we do this to fund 16 through 18. That was the point of doing that whole thing, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have a couple unanswered questions.
Okay. Roger?
Craig, the Canyon and Park Avenue in Manitou Springs, have we identified a funding source for its blank?
Oh, it's because the funding source that those were originally funded in no longer exists.
Okay. That's
And so we're not really sure what the funding source is,
Okay, that's fine.
because that funding source went away with MAP 21, so.
Well, the bridges are still standing, so we're good to go. Now, the 5 Points Roundabout, could you remind me as to where those are?
That's by the Blue Star. That's the,
Cajon
just
and-
southwest of the Blue Star.
Okay, thank you. And my third
Actually, I
question
can-
is the NOPE policy. I know that's an acronym.
Penny extra.
Oh, okay, thanks. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I like that one better.
That's the first one that's thanked me today. Okay, Fran, you're up.
Welcome.
Just a comment, and it has to do with process, and I know we've kicked this around, but when I read something that says assumed to have moved forward, the assumption there is, okay, it's somebody that took their eye off the ball, but I'm reading this, the policy, it says that during each semi-annual review, comparisons will be made. So that means on this one, it should have come up at least 14 times to this board and to the TAC between 2008 and now.
We actually were the last MPO in the country to adopt a delay policy, and so most of these projects actually predate the delay policy.
So from
We've
a
only had it
process
for 2
standpoint,
tips, yeah.
You'll be now catching up and getting this, so every
So-
6 months, we'll see these and not.
Bob?
Were the board to take the same direction that we might be doing right now versus what the TAC would do, those dollars could be stripped away from projects. They're in Region 2.
They are only, no, all these funds are ours.
They
They're
are- And they will
PPACGs.
continue
To be
to be
PPACGs,
ours,
yes.
regardless, they wouldn't be taken by another region.
Nope, all these funds are ours,
Circumstances.
which is why it's our issue. Yeah, they're Metro or CMEC that we, PPACG, will assign projects to.
Greg, I'm going to ask the bottom line question. Does it really make a difference whether we approve this or disapprove this? I mean, I understand that it expresses a.
If you approve it, there won't be a discussion at the board about it.
Okay, that answers.
It will just go through quietly.
Jen, I can tell you that I go to agenda prep with our exec committee every month, and they always ask, what does the TAC think about this item? What does the TAC think about it?
Harold, did you have your hand up?
No, I did not.
Just
Michelle,
one last thing, I apologize. However we end up voting on this, may I recommend that we identify to the board that there's at least a dozen more projects coming forward that are going to be looking for funds as well, so that they're aware that this isn't like the final list. There's more problem children coming behind.
Well, they may not be asking, they may not be asking for money, but they are problem children.
I think that they need to be aware of that
Do
before
all
they
of them
decide.
predate the policy?
They predate PPACG's policy, not the federal requirements.
Again, you're referring to the delay in adopting the delay
Right.
policy.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen?
I'd like to call question.
Okay, question has been called. Could we repeat the motion so we understand what we're voting on?
What it means is that we are going to vote like now about
Yeah,
it.
that's what that means.
But my motion is to deny this and to not recommend.
Would
That
you,
is the motion.
So if we approve, that means.
Correct. A yes vote says that we don't think there's enough information, and there's other reasons for us voting that way.
and would you like to clarify with the board that you would like more information on these projects specifically before you make a,
Yes, I mean, granted, this, this list is prior to the current policy. It's okay to ask for a waiver. Doesn't mean we'll give it. That's where I'm coming from. That's my motion.
The question has been called, which means we got to vote, and then we'll come back. So does everybody understand what we're voting on? A yes vote says that this moves forward without a recommendation for approval. A no vote fails, and then we can determine another, that's all it is. A no vote, and we can determine another motion if we need to do that.
Can I amend the motion potentially?
Offering an amendment?
To delay the vote until we have further information?
I don't know if
I don't want to accept an amendment.
Totally fine.
I mean, I think we ought to decide if this is acceptable level of information to us. That's,
Don't you ever do this to me again.
I am really enjoying this meeting.
I'm sure you are. Holy moly. Okay, we have all right. All those in favor of the motion to forward a no recommendation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right, we have one negative. Roger?
League of Women Voters.
I'm sorry?
No, it's Roger.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
We were going to make notations about our concerns about what's going on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there are a bunch of them.
Jacqueline, we have those down.
We have,
Read the list.
all right. Here's the list, courtesy of Rachel, who is trying to keep me on track and failing miserably. We need to know total dollars in 19, I think, that are actually available after we've talked about some of the other. What was the original project year on the 6 that we were looking at? And obviously, we will want to know that about any additional ones that are going to be brought forward. We do need to get to the reason for the delays, and because some of these projects predate people who are around the table, any description that we can get to about what the project was. Was there anything else that anybody had in mind?
If they've invested any funding in these projects.
Percent expended,
okay.
percent expended, percent completed, that's pretty basic.
Good.
good list, thanks.
Okay. We are on the project priority list, item number 9.
So Jim, are you going to give the report to the board this month too?
I think I'd probably better, except I don't think I'm in town for it. What is the?
Or he can arrange to be out of town.
14th.
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
Nice try, Bob.
You're welcome.
Your timing was good, Bob.
Do you want me to record it? At least you were here for the fun. Oh, yeah. Now entering the center ring. Oh, he's still there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Project priority list.
So what we did at the TAC was just go down the list of projects and analysis and say if they thought that would be a good priority or not. Actually, I should see if you have the same thing I can do. Yes, if you look at attachment 1 of this item, it's this one. Oh. That is the wrong.
Keep going.
There's no other document.
Ooh.
Sorry. I have failed to do something yet again. Anyway, so while she's doing that,
There you go.
you're awesome.
Well, we all have it in front of us, do we not?
Do we have a physical copy of what?
I think you have a physical copy of it. So,
Cost benefit?
well, it's the one page,
Attachment 1 and attachment 2?
Total weighted score.
yes, it's the one that shows the total cost and total weighted score. So the first project that the TAC thought would be a good one going down the list was Project 111, State Highway 21, Powers Boulevard widening from Woodman Road up to State Highway 83. Make to 6 lanes. Continuing down the US 24 West, Ridge Road and A Street, those projects and the analysis, those are needed projects in 2040. They're not needed, what the approach the TAC took is, are these projects good projects in the next 5 or 10 years, or is there need sometime further out? And so the 8th Street, with the improvement that Cimarron Interchange is making with that additional cut-through road, that mitigates the need for interchange there, at least for the next decade. And Ridge Road is, again, and that's also, so 111, the Highway 21, then we drop down, both projects 204 and 205, that's US 24 East, and those are addressing issues that exist now out in Falcon.
Okay.
So it's widening from either 2 lanes to 4 lanes or 4 lanes to 6 lanes, depending on the cross-section. 136 Highway 85 widening down by Fountain was a project they listed. I-25 widening on South, from near the South Academy interchange to Lake Circle, that was a project they wanted to include. One of their two higher priority projects were 112, the Powers Research Interchange, and that would complete a section of Powers Boulevard as a freeway, because right now there's a couple of interchanges, then the research at grade, and then a couple more interchanges, and that would put interchanges all the way across, which helps with flow. And then the intersection improvements in the central part of Powers, basically between Woodman and Platt or Airport, and that's installing CFIs, which is a continuous flow intersection. It's the at-grade version of the diverging diamond that we're putting at Fillmore. So you sort of cross over and then make the turn.
Which project is that?
That is 114. So I'll just go down the list. So 111, 205, 204, 136, 74, 112, and 114. They also were interested in the US 24 West widening from 8th Street to 31st Street.
Craig, excuse me, go back again.
Okay.
I'm at 114.
Yes.
What below that?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, and then above that is 114, 112, 74, 136, and 204. Is that correct?
Yes, 205 and 111.
These are the ones that the TAC recommended be on the priority list.
Yes.
Now, as opposed to the old list.
Correct. Yeah, updating the list to include those projects. Two other projects that they would like to put on, these are the ones that are included in our fiscally constrained plan, and so they can be, are no problem to fund. They had two additional projects that they wish to put onto the priority project list that are not included in our long-range plan. That is US 24 West widening from 8th Street to 31st Street, because yeah, and it's, what to do with, is the intersection improvements, the additional left turn at 21st Street going to be enough to mitigate that? But that is.
Project number is that?
It's not a project number because it was not included in our long-range plan. So, and they also desired to have the Powers extension from 83 to I-25 included. That's, and I don't have that.
Didn't we talk about that last meeting? It's not
Yes.
necessary?
Yeah. Yes, that would be the same project.
By long-range plan, do you mean it's not in the 2040 RTP?
Yes.
Then, is it in the 2035 or the 2030?
It was in the 2035 plan, yes. Because, and I will tell you, it was included in 2035 plan, because if we did not include it in the 2035 plan, FHWA would not finish the NEPA document to let us do any improvements on the corridor. You have to show that you can fully fund the whole project in your long-range plan in order to keep NEPA going forward. So as soon as we finished NEPA, we sort of backed off to just Cimarron intersection, 8th Street, which are their two really critical projects, because it's a $100 million project, so.
So none of these are in the 2040 plan?
No, all those.
These two, I mean.
Those two are not included, they are not funded in the 2040 plan.
Okay, before we open it up for discussion, further questions, can we have a motion on this recommendation?
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay. Bob?
Can you rattle off the benefit-cost ratio on these projects that we have?
Rattle off. Some of them, yes.
Start with 111.
Table.
Okay, it's, yeah, give me a second. Paging. Okay, 111's benefit cost is 14.2.
205,
205's is 6.3.
204,
204 is 2.4.
136,
Is 11.3.
74,
7.8.
112,
5.8.
and 114.
21.6. The benefit cost of the Powers extension is 0.2.
Yeah.
And US 24 West was never actually, that widening was never, we haven't done any detailed evaluation, so.
What concerns do you have about these recommendations?
Actually, there's a good distribution of costs. So when money falls out of the sky, we've got $26 million for you. What do you want to do? We can come up with $26 million. We can Frankenstein a set of projects together to fit most funding packages that are likely to fall out of the sky for us. And it's a big enough list, a costly enough list, that I don't think when we do this again in 4 years, we're going to have all these projects completed. So the concerns are if somehow the emphasis is given to projects that don't have a good benefit-cost ratio, that don't show that need. That would be where my concern would be.
So you
Good use of federal funds.
Jen?
So you're talking about the .2?
Yes,
Like
without being specific.
I agree. So, is the recommendation, when I saw the approval piece, I misinterpreted that list was already. Now, I went through the cost benefits, and I didn't remember seeing that one, the 83 to 25 particularly. And one of the things I wrote down was that I was okay with the bulk of this, and I was really impressed with the research that was done on the
We try to be rigorous when we do
projects.
this analysis.
So if we approve this whole piece, does that mean that we agree that that .2 project is extremely valuable and we should do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you and I have had conversations about that, and that's off in the distance. I mean, you've got a developer, basically, that it's going to go right through their property and connect that part of town to the interstate, but what is the driving impetus to put a 0.2 benefit-cost ratio on the priority list at this point in time? When you got others like 19.7 that we've left off, I mean,
Is that a rhetorical question?
It was a question.
I'd like to amend my motion. I would like to amend it to approve, review, and recommend minus the 2 less than 1 projects.
Well, US 24 West, we don't know it's less than 1 because we honestly didn't study it because it was never,
So it's nothing right now.
right.
If it's not in the 2040 plan, I
Right.
can't imagine it's that important.
Well, hold on. There's been an amendment to the motion by the mover.
I second.
Okay. So, further amended. Alan?
The recommendation was to table this by the TAC?
No, they, yeah, I'm supposed to create the list and then send it to them, but that didn't happen last week. So what I'll do is I'll send them their list and your list, and then it's an item for the board. It is, the board has requested this, so it will go forward to the board's agenda.
Are we still discussing? Are we okay?
Yes, we're still discussing.
When is the HOV lane going to be appropriate for?
Sometime between 2030 and 2040 is when it really hits the sweet spot. Some of there are a host of things that you need to have in place before you really make an HOV effective. The red lights on the ramp metering, yeah. So there's ramp metering, some other operational things that we need to do in the next 5 to 8 years to prep for the HOV. But that is a really good project too, in 2040. Like I said, 2030-ish.
Wow, I'll be 98.
Yeah.
No, I won't.
Driving electric cars.
I'm confused. Let me back up just a second. The list that you gave us, checking things off, I may have nodded off. Who recommended that particular?
That's the TAC
That's
list.
the TAC, but it says here, so I'm trying to understand that. My confusion is, Marion will explain that to me sometime, but it hits me from time to time. So how are we to respond if the TAC has made a specific recommendation, but it's not here? But according to what we're trying to work with, TAC has recommended tabling it for additional review, which, quite frankly, I'm leaning that way. I think there's two open questions that I'm aware of that we want some more information on. Okay, let's do Kevin and then Vince.
Are we discussing the motion?
We're still discussing, well, we're discussing the subject within the motion.
Okay.
So my leaning at this point is I would vote no on the motion, simply because I think tabling it is the right answer, but that's me.
Okay, I'm not sure I would support tabling it, but I might.
Okay.
But I wouldn't support the motion because of, it would be my sense, without any information to the contrary, that the value of the widening of 24 West would be substantially more than one. And so I would prefer not to take that off the list. While we have a valuation of something that is below one, I would support that. So I'm just giving you my sense of, boy, I sure would hate to see that come off the list.
Okay, Vince?
What is the impact of tabling this for a month?
The board will see it regardless of your suggestion of tabling it. It's something that they've requested. So what would happen is the TAC would give their list, and the CACs would say that CAC suggested tabling it.
So the TAC is going to meet again?
No, they've already given theirs. Their list that I read you.
The agenda item we got says that they tabled it. That's what Jim was
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yes.
On the back.
Yeah.
I don't have the back. Okay, so I'm supposed to make the list. Okay, yeah, the board is going to see the discussion, the two lists that have been discussed.
So the board's going to see this list that you just gave us from the.
Right. So,
Despite the fact that our packet says different.
yeah. But there's no, it wasn't up for, I don't know if it won't be approval then at the board, so maybe, I don't know.
All right, let's do Ellen.
Go ahead, Ellen.
I'd like to just jump on what Kevin said and add that I too am very interested, of course, in seeing 24 West widening project continue. However, given the current status of the CDOT multiple projects to stabilize the 24 corridor west of Colorado City, Old Colorado City, and the ongoing mitigation efforts and dealing with the repairs with the mitigation efforts that are part of the ongoing plan. I'm concerned about getting more information about that before that being included in this. I just haven't seen the level of detail that I'm comfortable with, and I am charged by my county commissioners to make sure that happens. So I'm sitting over here wearing multiple hats, being uncomfortable.
Okay, Michelle?
I'm a little confused about those two projects. If they're not currently in the 2040 plan, why would we even entertain any discussion about them? Because isn't that the whole point of having that 2040 RTP? I mean, we've already gone through the process of what's important, what we need to have in it. We shouldn't be discussing adding additional projects until it comes time to redo the plan. I mean, isn't that how that process is supposed to work?
That's how I would like it to work.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it was so important, it should have been included in the plan, and everybody's agency, government was given the opportunity to provide input into that plan. We've got a plan that's out for community review, being ready for approval, and now we're talking about adding projects?
Good point. Good point. Thank you.
That makes no sense to me.
What I wanted to do, Craig, was just clarify that you all had input. It says that the staff also had input into these prioritized
Yes.
ones, minus the two new ones that they wanted to tack on.
And we also discussed, Schriever Air Force Base requested some safety improvements. CDOT outlined $3 or $4 million worth of safety improvements on State Highway 94, lighting. They're operational, and so that's one of those where never came to resolution. Is that something that you put in a priority list where you're making operational type improvements? How do you do that? So I think that's probably one of the TAC items for discussion.
So is reviewing and recommending this had staff input into this
Yes.
prioritized list. This is not something that the TAC just said, okay.
No, we went through every item
But that's what I
line
understand.
by line and talked about them.
That's what I'm just clarifying.
Yep.
So you all felt that from the cost-benefit analysis, as well as what the needs are of the community, the fact that these are already in the plan.
And
that
timing of
This
needs.
is your top list here.
That, yeah, I think that's minus the two other projects not in the plan, it's a good list, I think.
All right.
So are we ready to vote?
Can I throw one other thing out?
Sure.
That I just remembered as a discussion item, sorry. These are all state highways. Are our regional priorities only on state highways? CDOT, when they get money from federal highway for the national highway system, which they have up till now assumed to mean just the state highways. But we have a whole lot of national highways that are not state highways. Woodman Road, Platte, Academy, Union, Woodman. These are all national highway systems that CDOT could, if they wanted to, put funds on to improve. Always in the past, we've only done state highways because that makes CDOT, it goes easier through CDOT. But are those really our only priorities? And are our priorities only road projects? Or should we have a transit or an operations or a bike trail project? Do we need $10 million of bike trail improvements or, completion or that? So that discussion was very short-lived at TAC, but I'll lay it out for you also.
Trying to muddy the waters.
Not deliberately, but I feel like I should, like this, the fact that we've only ever included state highways, that bothers me, especially given that we have fewer state highways per capita than anybody else in the state.
So why isn't Woodman and Academy and some of those other state highways?
Because we've, as a region, have chosen to assume responsibility of them from CDOT. They used to be. I can show you a map of the state highways. Mesa Boulevard, Mesa Road, just over here, that was a state highway. Templeton Gap was a state highway.
How did that benefit our region?
Those are decisions made that I honestly don't, but they used to be state highways. So,
Well, Templeton Gap is now a local street. I mean, it's blockaded at Austin Bluffs.
so, yeah, it used to go through, it used to go all the way throughout to Falcon.
I understand.
Yeah, so,
Yep, but Woodman, Academy,
Woodman is.
I mean, those ought to be part of the state system.
so, not trying, well, I guess I am trying to muddy the waters, but I feel like I should,
Thank
full.
you.
So is it your thinking, forgive me, is it your thinking that it's best not to move this prioritized list forward, even though this was staff recommendations based on the fact that what are called state highways is so limited?
They're still excellent projects. I wouldn't want to not move a list forward to hold it up for that, but I would like to have a discussion that, are we only doing state highways? Are our only projects state highways? Should we only be looking at roads, or should we be looking at some sort of transit or operational or non-motorized?
Well, will our discussion, if we can get there,
Sorry.
the weighting of the criteria, will that help to clarify some of this?
Not
No?
really.
Okay.
So,
Rachel Cricket over here.
Mr.
What
Chairman.
is the motion? I'm sorry.
What is the amendment?
Yeah.
All right, I
What is
want
the
to come
motion
back.
and what's the
because
amendment?
We've had it amended and seconded. I'd like to have the amended motion restated, please.
The amended motion is to move the prioritized list of state highway projects
This list here.
as, right, as brought forward by the staff and the input that they had, approved that, minus the two additional projects that lack positive cost benefit greater than one and do not have enough information.
And those specific items are
Powers Boulevard extension?
Boulevard
from
extension.
83 to I-25.
And the I-25 widening? No.
Yeah,
Powers extension.
Powers extension from 83 to I-25.
Right.
And the I-25
No.
Widening? No.
25 widening.
No.
Well, that's
Everything else
It
stays.
was 24 west. They're not
Well, it's
on the list
24 west.
anywhere.
And only
Okay.
because my concern about the 24 West one, there's not a big enough evaluation on it. There's not enough homework done on it to do that. Not to say that once that goes on.
I honestly have no idea what it would be. I really
But
don't know.
It's not on the 2040 plan.
I know.
Right.
Okay.
It's not ready for prime time. So I'm sorry that's a messy amendment.
You know,
Just for clarification, you said the Powers extension, State Highway 83 to I-25, and the second one is?
24.
24.
24
24
west
west.
widening.
Because we haven't done analysis on
It's
it.
a lack of information
Yeah.
that
I mean,
doesn't
there's-
currently exist on the plan.
Okay, is that the one that's item number 3 on the first? Where is it?
I don't think so.
They're not-
They're not on here at all.
Okay, it's not on here because it's not in the,
Well,
sorry,
this isn't the list. It's those items that Craig read off from this page is the recommended new priority list. The one on the front of the paperwork is the old list that we're going to replace with these new projects. Most of these are either completed or in process.
And it's the ones that we asked about the cost-benefit ratios. on
yes,
all of
yes,
those.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Those are the
Okay.
ones we're recommending.
Okay,
And I can,
everybody else is clear on
Why don't you
this.
just read those off again?
okay.
Hold on.
There's mud.
Yeah, could you repeat those, Craig?
Yep. I'll just run down the project numbers from the left side.
Are you doing these in order of the dots here?
I'm doing them in order of
That
the
was
table.
applicable anymore, really.
111, 205, 204, 136, 74, 112, 114.
They're at the top of the list.
Thank you, Craig.
And Powers Extension to I-25,
Yep.
which is not on the list.
And US 24 West widening. Those are the additional two that the TAC recommended.
Jim, could I ask Craig one more question?
Yes, you
please?
may.
A meeting that I was in, and it was talking about the required mitigation work on US Highway 24 up Butte Pass. They've done about $12 million worth of mitigation, but there's another $50 million that needs to be done. To make that a viable project, along with widening Highway 24 bypass that leads you
Well,
to...
the bypass is a whole different.
Well, but, you know, if you've got a highway that's going to close every time you get X number of inches of rain, why are you putting all that money into it on the bypass if you can't get traffic up the pass? I mean, when conditions are shutting it down. So is all of that work that CDOT has yet to do on Ute Pass, is it going to be taken into the context of doing some of this stuff?
No, that would, the NEPA hasn't been done up the pass. The 24 West is down in the flat part out here along Fountain Creek. The mitigation is all in the pass.
I understand that.
So, yeah, that's two completely separate. Something I can offer is we can at least do a cursory volume to capacity ratio analysis of 24 West to see what it looks like. It's not a full benefit cost, but it will give us an idea what kind of congestion we see in 2040. I mean, if you'd be interested in that.
Is it relevant?
I am always interested in this data, and I would just share, in case any of you aren't aware, that Highway 24 Ute Pass is one of 3 main east-west corridors in the state. And they have to stay open for all kinds of egress and access, including freight and tourism and emergencies, et cetera. But Ute Pass is more than just a tourist corridor.
And I believe both those projects, well, the US 24 West widening is definitely an important project. But when we don't have the data to know what the cost benefit is, total cost, and it hasn't been included in the 2040 RTP yet, it makes no sense to put it on a priority list.
Michelle, thank you for saying that.
But I believe it's important.
Okay.
We agree.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not that, I'm up and down 24 all the time.
I'm sure there are many of us agree, and I don't want you to think that I'm over here just wearing the hat that says Teller County no matter what. As I said earlier, I am wearing multiple hats here. I'm very uncomfortable with the lack of information. At the same time, I've been told what we need to do.
Okay, all right. I think we've again, shallow breathing. Is everyone clear on the motion?
No.
No, all right.
The motion or the amendment?
All right. The amended motion, as I understand it, the amended motion, as I understand it, now, if I'm wrong, smack me, is to approve the TAC recommended list except for the Powers North extension, US 83, whatever it is, to I-25, and the US 24 West work, which is not on the list to start with. Is that?
Was it TAC? I don't think it was TAC approved.
TAC.
This is staff.
TAC recommended.
It's the tax.
It's the recommendation and the staff advisory.
Yeah, it's the tax, it's the projects that the TAC gave an affirmative agreement to.
Okay.
Was there another statement in there about with a benefit cost ratio of less than
There was.
1?
Yes.
That it was less than 1, and what you state on this earlier and the reason I brought that up
Yes.
is what they state on the document is anything less than 1 shouldn't be on the list.
Yeah, consistent with that.
I now understand the amended motion.
Do you?
Thank you. Yes, I finally caught up.
All right. All those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Roger? Kevin?
No, the league would like to abstain, please.
Oh, okay. Roger's abstaining. Kevin is negative. Okay. Scott, you're back into the barrel, please.
Hello.
Okay.
Good to see everybody again.
We're back.
Call for projects. This is agenda item number 10.
See if I pull up the right thing here. We have it.
This is good.
There we go. All righty. All right. This is with regards to the 2017-2022 TIP. In the last TIP, the 13 TIP and also the 15 TIP, or 16 TIP, the primary funding categories that we receive are STIP Metro, CMAQ, and TAP. That's what, when Craig talks about our money, those are the funds that we really talk about. With regards to the largest funding source that we receive is STIP Metro, and now we are provided estimates by CDOT, and these are the dollar amounts right here across here for STIP Metro, and these are the funding resource allocation. That's 100% federal dollars. Those federal dollars, I'm not showing you anything with local match or anything up there. That's just what we receive, are expected to receive as federal dollars. Now, previously, in the 13 TIP, the TAC and the CAC and the board, they all recommended that we do some sub-allocation of these STIP funds. Those STIP fund sub-allocation was a Metro Bridge program or a bridge program, as well as a congestion management and a planning studies type funding. With regards to what the breakdown and what we have here, these three numbers right here, the orange, the yellow, and the purple, based on what was previously done, which is Metro Bridge was 15% of the total amount here, was sub-allocated directly annually for bridge programs only. Congestion management received a 10% suballocation, and planning studies got 1% out of the funding. Again, this is a discussion item before you, and the question is this suballocating, taking these funds, suballocating and programming them and purposing them for specific uses rather than anything goes, is that something that the CAC would like to move forward and do? Go ahead.
Why did the board want to have those specific allocations? Was there insufficient, were those projects?
Might be able to answer that.
Dollars in the past, or?
I call it the tyranny of large projects. Large projects, the way our scoring system works, tend to score better disproportionately than small projects, because they can sort of accumulate points because they're just a bigger corridor. So, and bridge rehab, maintenance type projects like that is just not, it's hard to score that. It's something that's necessary, but in our scoring, so we carve that out. Planning studies are another, they're small projects, they're necessary to do planning, but they don't score well because you're not actually doing anything to score well. So it was sort of to account for some known biases in the scoring process.
And make sure that some of those things
Get funded. Exactly.
Scott / Craig, one of the things that I had put a question down here when I was reviewing this is that, are these based on historical percentages? My question is related to that because I have found when I have budgeted projects before, if I do something up front and take it off the top, then sure shoot in the next year, I'm going to want to shift where those percentages are based on the importance of, particularly like a planning study or something like that.
They were based on, when the percentages were developed, they were based on historic needs of a whole plan period. So we need $20 million to do planning studies. The problem is when you take the total funding level down, you actually undercut planning studies. To give you an idea, we're doing US 24 East. We're doing PEL there. It's a pretty basic planning studies, $3 million. We've gotten word that Woodland Park would like to study a bypass of the downtown. That's going to be a $3 to $5 million planning study. Other planning studies, you can start doing some cursory type stuff with that funding level, but it's more of almost a placeholder.
So what this does is gives you dollars up front to accomplish some of this work that doesn't normally happen.
Right. Well,
Are you concerned, is this just kind of a guesstimate percentages, or it can't shift?
Well, we refer to it as a guideline, and we actually had this exact same discussion at the TAC that, we've got, and I don't have the exact number, $3 million in bridges or whatever. Well, what if we have $3.5 million in requested bridge funds? And do we move that up and take more out of the general pot? Well, it will depend on how projects score there. So that's where some of the it'll be their guideline dollars that when we actually get projects, see what project gets submitted and get the scores and see what's actually there, those will probably be flexible as far as moving where that line is back and forth as far as how much money we need in each category.
Okay, so you answered my question that these are based on historical percentages.
Yes.
And then that you also have wiggle room.
Yes, and TAC was very concerned about that wiggle room.
Craig, some reports that I've seen relative to the condition of bridges on a statewide basis, where bridges are scoring like a D+ by the Society of Engineers. Are we short shrifting bridges through the process that we've been going through?
CDOT is given money for bridges that are not on the National Highway System, and they're given money for bridges that are or are not on the National Highway System. They have chosen that to mean money for bridges on the state highways or money for bridges not on state highways. So they actually have a not small amount of funding that there, before it ever gets to us, and they have a whole set of separate bridge funding pools and discussions that happen before we ever get money down to our level. A D plus, actually, relative to other parts of the country, we're pretty good.
But that'll depend on the next highway bill, right?
Yeah.
The way it's allocated?
To it, there haven't been, the discussions aren't fundamental, aren't about the bridge stuff. It'll probably be pretty much what's in the map 21, so.
Craig, is this 15% of STP Metro, is that a minimum, but is not a maximum?
Correct, and that's where the wiggle room is,
Yeah.
because there may be bridges, some bridges, we can do a patch job and get it down the road another 10 years. That's where that wiggle room is. So, but we wanted to make sure that we're giving some acknowledgement that we need to start doing something with our bridges, but we don't know what, because these funds are 2020, 2021, and 2022.
I think your answer to my question is that these dollars are singled out as supporting bridge repair or maintenance, but the state has another budget where dollars are coming down for
Specifically
bridges.
for bridges.
And we don't know how many of those are in El Paso County, do we? Or
We don't.
Region 2.
No, and actually, and at the state level is also a state funded just for bridges also. So CDOT has actually 3 separate pots of money just for bridges. There's a state-funded pot and 2 federal-funded pots that are just for bridge maintenance.
So we get some of those dollars in addition to this.
It's possible, yes. If our bridges get in bad enough condition, then, which is bad to qualify, then yes, we will get some of those monies.
Vince?
We have 2 tax pots as well, city and county, for bridge work. How does that tie into this?
That's local funds, and actually, a lot of times, that may be used to match the federal funds. There'd be the 20% match. It can be 100% if it's a high-priority project, and there's enough money to do it's on a local street. It can be 100% fund, but all those funds can also be used to match the state and federal funds.
Do we have any control of that, or?
None. Yeah, that's PPRTA, so, and the general fund, so.
Okay, come on up. Come on up.
Thank you very much.
Is this on this point?
Susan Davies from the Trails and Open Space Coalition. Thank you for just one quick moment. But just to remind you that STP Metro can be used for bicycle, pedestrian, and recreational trails as well. And I've been listening to the meeting, and I know you have a lot of needs and a lot of places to put it. But just as a reminder, that money can be used for those. And as we shared with you with our economic benefits of bicycling study that came out months ago, that when you invest in some of those things, the returns can be very impressive. And you know that there are efforts going on right now in our community to look at us as a, recreation mecca. How do we build up some of those things with tourism and some of those others? And I think there could be real benefit, at least in making that consideration, especially when the governor's talking about putting money toward bicycling and others. Having that same commitment here locally and for match and for other opportunities would be something to consider. Thank you.
Susan, thank you. Yeah, I would note that we have discussed non-vehicle transportation options at some length over the last few months, so appreciate that additional input, Susan.
And I think with regards to non-motorized, our active transportation, I think you could also look at congestion management could also be considered under that category.
Okay.
With regards to getting people out of their cars and using an alternative transportation.
Well, and it seems to me, too, that nothing in what we're talking about precludes the use of other monies for these same purposes.
Exactly. And again, when we start talking about funding resources, STIP Metro is, with regards to, I made it a color green for one reason. It is the greenest color of money we can have in the region. With regards to, it can be pretty much used for everything. The other programs, CMAQ, TAP, they're more constricted with regards to the type of projects that those funds can be applied towards. So, and again, historic, when you ask if this is historic for me, my understanding is historic since the 2013 TIP.
Yeah.
So it is something that was set with regards to some precedent. and moving forward with the last tip. It really wasn't examined. And again, we're moving forward. And when we look at the funds, we're really talking about the years 2020 out to 2022. We're really not, I mean, with regards to the item before about spreading the dollars over with the delayed projects, most of those funds are going to be coming out of what remaining of the 2017 through 2019. So we're really looking at 2020 through 2022 of doing the sub-allocation for those dollars.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I'm aware we've got a couple more items we need to address, so.
The other
Thank
one
you.
on here is just a FYI that we will be moving forward with application moving forward with the call for projects the 14th of October, middle of next month.
Very good.
So.
Thank you. Criteria weighting.
I'm going to hand out some whisker diagrams because I think they're cool. The actual, what the analysis showed. So the whisker diagram is, what it shows is the spread of ranking and weighting and the first, I just lost the phrase, the core area that, standard deviation, and the first standard deviation of weighting. So if you look at the scores, and the scores are, first is most, or I guess 13 is most important and 1 is least important. You'll see that 7 projects were scored as most important, and 8 projects were scored as least important. And 3 of those projects were scored both most important and least important. And those are cost effectiveness, safety, and infill. So if a ranking score was 13, if the little line goes up to the 13, that means it was most important. If the little line is in the 1, that means it was least important. Then up the weighting, it's of the 100 points that were split up, what is the range of how many points each one got? And you'll see some got as low as 1 point. Actually, there's a whole bunch got as low as 1 point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them got 1 point. And 1 scored as much as 30 points. The preservation scored as much as 30 points out of 100 on somebody's weighting. And then the box shows that first standard deviation, again, of the spread. So you see wildlife is really tightly packed under weighting scores, that everybody had it getting about, it looks like 2 to 4 points. Whereas others are more spread out. Safety varied, it looks like, between 7 and 14 points. So this shows the weighting and spread, and Scott is bringing up.
I'm trying to find it, and I sent you over the file, and I don't know, I can't remember what file I put it up under another file.
This is just the CAC rating.
This is just the CAC. Yeah, the TAC has not ranked or scored these, so we will.
Can you share anything with us about the TAC rating?
The TAC they haven't done it. There's been no effort on their part. So they in the past, what's happened is they see the CAC weighting and ranking and go, oh, that's not good. Can we do it? And
That's expected, yes.
so,
Why are we not surprised by that?
I will tell you that the scores are not wildly different from what was adopted for the 2040 plan.
We have that, right?
Yes.
That's not the one. I apologize, guys. This is.
Do you have a? Yeah. See, that's like the 2040 right there.
That's the RTP scores. I've saved everything in
Yeah.
the file,
So-
but I can't find it.
Okay. Can you go upstairs and find it?
Yeah, I'll go find
Yeah,
it.
you can get the hard copy.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Forgive me, I'm having a hard time with the initials, remembering what
Oh.
everything is.
Don't feel bad because I am too. What's getting me is the EV and FM.
Environmental justice.
Yeah, stormwater, air quality, stormwater, EV and FM. I'm trying to figure out what that one is.
No,
EJ is.
Oh, I can tell you each of them.
Economic vitality.
Yeah, economics. Okay.
Okay, I can tell you each of them. We have the preservation, mobility, cost effectiveness, connectivity, safety, redundancy. Then that's environmental justice is what EJ is. Impact reduction, freight movement, economic vitality and freight movement. That's infill redevelopment is following that. Wildlife, stormwater, and air quality. And I abbreviated them so they would fit.
Okay, so since I do have a hard copy of this, I'll read them. You know what, I want you to see these. Can you go make 20 copies just right over here? So, how about a 5-minute break?
How about a 5-minute break?
15 minutes to go.
We're 13 to go. All right, let me make sure. So what we're looking at on the weighting scores is the gray still
That's one standard deviation.
one standard deviation above
Yes.
and below the mean?
Yes. And you'll get those means here shortly. That's what he's printing out.
Okay.
So, but I wanted to try, what I wanted to try to do was communicate the spread
Yeah.
of the difference. And so my favorite is that 3 categories were scored both most and least important. I love that.
Mr. Chairman?
People in the room, yeah.
That is interesting.
Interessant. Mr. Chairman, may I ask
Yes.
Craig what was the response rate of the CAC? Did you get 95% or better?
No.
What did you get?
7 people failed to
7
commute.
out of 20?
7 out of 24.
Thank you.
24? 24?
Ouch.
7 out of 25?
How many?
21, 22.
Oh, 7 out of 22, 21 or 22. So a third of people did not.
66% response rate.
Thank you.
Could this system be scammed in any way? In other
Oh,
words,
totally. And that's actually what happens.
Do you throw out some outliers?
No, that's actually one of the reasons why we show I started showing the weighting. For the 2040 plan, I will tell you that one of the people who weighted 4 categories with 1, or, with the absolute minimum they could. And then 2 categories worth like 60%. So, but it was not a CAC member, so.
That's one way to do it.
Well, then they were ignoring, the ranking scores in that.
Well, no, the system we use, ranking and weighting actually are combined in the system to create, and so we use that as a verification. But all it verifies is that if you gave it a ranking of 3, that your weighting is about third also. But it doesn't, the magnitude of the weighting isn't shown, which is why the whisker diagram comes in handy. When you see a wide difference between the whisker diagram of the weighting and the ranking, a big spread, that's where you start wondering if people are gaming it.
I think part of the issue I had was the definition of each one of those areas, fully understanding the impact that they would have, on transportation. For example, stormwater, to me, every project includes stormwater. There's 10 or 15% that is built into stormwater issues. So I didn't understand what the outlying issue would be in building a road when that is included in all design on a project, for example.
Because it's not about just transportation. So the premise that this is how stormwater affects transportation isn't how it is. It's how do we make stormwater better in the region, directly or indirectly. It's not about how stormwater and transportation interface. We're taking the goals of the other agencies that we're collaborating with and incorporating them into our goals. So like the wildlife, we're incorporating the goals of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Colorado Division of Wildlife into our regional plan.
See, I didn't come into your original session, so I just took what you gave me, and I thought it all related to transportation planning.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the partnership, so.
Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Chairman, in order to get a motion on the floor so we can discuss this, and in the interest of time, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend agenda item 11. We have reviewed it, and I recommend that we recommend it to the Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Okay, so the number on the left is the 2040 weighting, and the number on the right is the 2017 to 2022 TIP weighting as we have received it. So you can see, and let me slide this over. Let's crunch these. So the preservation, 12.7 in the 2040 plan, 12.5 in the TIP, that's about the same. Congestion reduction was 12.3 in the plan, it's 9.9 right now in the TIP. Cost effectiveness, 9.3 to 8.8. System connectivity, 9.7 and 9.1. Safety, 11 to 10.4. Resiliency, redundancy, 7.2 to 7.3. Environmental justice, 4.8. Adverse impact reduction, 4.9 to 6.9, so that's an interesting one. Economic vitality and freight movement, 7.0 to 7.6. Infill went up from 4.7 to 5.5. Wildlife habitat went from 3.2 to 5.6. Stormwater went from 7.2 to 7.9, and air quality 5.9 to 5.9. So like I said, it's reasonably similar to the 2040 plan.
Whose ox got gored around this table? Sorry.
That's the way it goes. Sometimes you get the bear, and sometimes the bear gets you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any concerns by staff with the weighting, ranking values that came out of the CAC?
The values, no, only the lack of participation. And we sent multiple emails, and those people who didn't know who they are.
Okay, good.
Well, all right, so we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear any further discussion? All, yes.
I guess, with regards to stormwater, I was just personally a little disappointed that it didn't rank higher, considering how much it impacts our community. But that's
Noted.
Here, here.
Noted.
Call for the question, please.
Question has been called for. Does everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Roger's in a hurry.
Go, Roger.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
Yep.
Okay, Rachel, you're on.
All right, take all the time you like, Rachel.
That's a relief, Roger. You were making me nervous.
All 7 minutes.
Okay. Start the timer. Rachel Beck, Policy Communication Manager. Just wanted to give you a quick update. As you know, we're in the midst of the Regional Transportation Plan public comment period. And in May, I presented to you our plan for doing the outreach. And some things have changed since. As you know, the plan was delayed by several months. Given the shortened time frame and the fact that there was public outreach done on the front end of the plan in order to create it in the first place, the transportation team really felt that it would be better to do this as more of an education than look for feedback that would perhaps change the plan at this point in the process. So a number of these things that we had talked about before have been canceled, notably the telephone town halls. And we've also scaled back some of the components like the social media. So just felt like since we had talked about this before, it was only fair to come back and give you guys an update.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you may.
We'll be starting the plan for the 2050, probably 6 months to a year. So look forward to that.
I have a question.
I'm not sure we're accepting resignation letters either. Yes, sir.
I'm just interested, why was there a cutback, particularly in social media? Just asking why.
Well, most of our tactics that we had talked about were aimed at getting people to give us feedback on some particular questions. And without asking people really for specific input, just telling them to come listen to a presentation, it just seemed like maybe not the best use of resources. And we've talked about before, you get a certain number of hits at the apple, and maybe it would be better to save them for the next plan when the feedback that we would get would be more tied to actually crafting the plan.
Thank you.
Bob, a question. The nominating committee,
Yes,
are
I was
we
going to
in
ask.
here? I'm not asking for a report. I just want to know that something's going on.
How many do we have to select?
I didn't think we were, I was interested in a second term, so that's my goal.
Okay. Have you
And I-
expressed that to Mr. Creeley, or?
Actually, I expressed it, I
To Rachel.
asked both Jacqueline and Rachel what was the appropriate process for that. So
Right now, our only openings are on entity-appointed seats, and so I don't believe that the nominating committee actually meets for those seats, just for the citizens at large.
True.
So I think that we were confused last month when we talked about that.
I'm most concerned about officer positions.
Ah.
And who's going to be doing that? Because I'm not going to do it again.
So there.
Okay, another agenda item? Have another agenda item?
Oh, yes, hold on, we're not finished with our agenda yet. Rachel has one more item.
I'm
Right,
sorry.
Rachel has the floor.
That's okay, thank you.
I thought I had a bully.
You thought I was that fast, didn't you? Last time we talked about the website being hacked, that it was down, and that we had an extensive process ahead of us to update that to current software and make a lot of improvements. And so Erica Hunter, our webmaster, was just going to talk to you for a few minutes while we have you as a captive audience about some suggestions that you might have.
We're really excited to have a new website in the most current version of the software. And we sent a questionnaire, which all of you got, about how you perceive the website and how easy it was to find things. Now, I know most of you get a link directly to the agenda every month. So I don't know how much poking around you've done, but if you have any suggestions or any frustrations with finding things on the website, we'd love to hear about it.
Yes. Without too much detail, was it very expensive in staff time repairing the damage done by the hackers?
Well, we didn't know. I mean,
buy new software?
Well, what happened is we did have to go to our consultant, who is a specialist in Joomla, which is the package that we use, and he helped us do that. And no, I don't remember the exact price.
$11,128.
Well, that's the website itself. That's to create.
When hackers are hacking into professional companies that prevent hacking, I would not be terribly embarrassed by this event.
Well, the actual real problem that we were having was that the version that we were using of the software was so old that it was just very, very vulnerable to hackers. And so that's how they got in.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that, we're sure that it will be improved with this new version.
Because I'm sure this community would give you all the help you would need to spend money to protect our website. And ours.
Well, I mean, we weren't even able to install security patches.
And you don't have your own individual e-server, or a server, do you?
We have a host, a web hosting company.
I think he wants to know, too, whether you're running for president.
I'm not.
Okay, let me just encourage everybody, if you have not had a chance to go on the Council of Governments website, to take some time, fit it into your schedule, but just kind of see how it works for you, and let's provide some feedback, right?
We're hoping for your suggestions now.
Yes. Oh, now, at this moment. Yes, sir.
I've been on, ever since I got the call about a month ago, I've been on the site, and everything has been easy to click on. Everything goes very well. Everything that I wanted to look up for the agendas and the meetings to download went very smoothly the last few days.
Okay. Well, I would still suggest, I know that you would like recommendations at this nanosecond, but for those, I get the sense that not a lot of people have been on there with an operational need, if you will. And that's usually when the bugs start to pop up, not just when you're cruising around looking at things and just trying to see what it feels like, but when you're actually trying to accomplish something. So, Al?
For those who are maybe interested in serving as the chairman or vice chairman, or the second vice designated hitter, if they could send an email to Jacqueline, I'll try to get all that stuff together so that we can consider it in later in the year so that we can make that happen, Bob, and so that you can.
I think, Jacqueline, Rachel, as far as what we have done in the past November, December meeting, we've kind of, have we combined the November, December meeting, and we're really kind of skipping one meeting?
Okay, before we get to that, can we just say, Erica, thank you very much. I think you could go sit down now.
I'm sorry, but I was just following Creeley.
I know.
Thank you for
I understand, he's easy to follow.
That's right.
thank you for the,
Anyway, okay, we are on the items for the next, item for the October meeting. And consideration of a compromise date, probably before the December Council of Governments Board meeting, but after Thanksgiving.
You don't want to meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Well, I was thinking about the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Wednesday before Christmas are both really attractive.
I won't be here for them, though.
If I remember correctly, didn't we looked at combining them and then we didn't? We actually split them, we did mid-month and mid-month?
Yeah, I think we did. We did 2 meetings, but we just moved them up.
Because of what we had to talk
Right.
about.
And there's likely, with the new guidance I mentioned about the projects that are obligated but not moving forward, we're going to have some tip amendments or something, at least in November. December actually could be empty,
So far.
but I don't want to jinx it.
You already did.
Okay. What is the well, let's do this, because people do need to look at calendars and things like that. Can we do this on the meeting next month, the October meeting on the 28th? But let's have some information. We might put a couple of dates out there and get some feedback in advance so we can talk about that at the 28th. And then we reinforce what Brother Creeley has offered, and that is if you are interested in serving in one of the officer positions, please let Jacqueline or Rachel know.
When are elections?
Elections are when? November?
Well, it depends on when we have a meeting. But,
Is it in a year?
yes. And how much pressure would it be if we have a November meeting and don't have a December meeting to have a slate? There's a bylaw requirement as far as notification of the officer lineup. Can we waive that if we wanted to?
You can. And nominations can also be taken from the floor at the time of the election. So that has happened in the past. So the nominating subcommittee can make their recommendation. Nominations can be made from the floor. And it can probably also happen at the January meeting, the first meeting of 2016.
Well, why don't we shoot for the November meeting as far as having a slate?
If we get any response at all, we will, obviously.
Well, let's have a response.
on that, is there anywhere that would describe the duties of obviously the chairman, but the first and second?
Yes.
There is somewhere in
The bylaws, we can distribute that to you.
Okay.
You want to send the bylaws out? I know people get them when they come on this committee.
Yeah, I'm sure they're someplace. I just would ask to see them.
And the last revision, I think, is 2007, according to the copy I have.
No, there was the 2014 version.
Was there an amendment?
Yeah, there was like a March 2014, 2015 version. I know I have.
Oh, I remember. No, okay. Our bylaws. Okay. Anything else for next meeting?
Not next meeting, I just had another comment for Rachel.
Okay. Member comments?
You put out an email about $800,000, $900,000, a study that's going to be done by PPACG. How does the CAC participate in that, or how do we get involved in other than transportation issues?
I don't know yet, but I could bring an update to you when I do know.
Because that's a significant study that's going to be done.
I don't yet know if there will be a separate advisory committee to that project, or if it will be overseen by this committee, or how that will work.
Is this similar to what resulted in the peak military care network? I mean, that was a funding thing that ended up, I believe, with a separate special committee that ultimately established the care network.
I can speak to that with a modicum of information.
Must
It's
be
a
more
joint
than
land use study. It's funded from the same agency, but it's a very different purpose.
Okay.
This is to look at where the impacts that affect the military missions can come from the community and impact the military bases, whether it's, although I think they took electromagnetic spectrum off because Schriever dropped out of the study, but where there's growth, stormwater like the Air Force Academy, Bass Pro stormwater runoff into Bass Pro or into the Air Force. So it's looking for those conflicts and trying to resolve them.
Okay, very good.
You know, I was going to say you really did a fine job of running the meeting, but we're five minutes beyond time.
Actually, and I hate to correct you, but we're 7 minutes beyond time. But we started right at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Some weren't here.
To the second, I might add.
Some weren't here.
Well,
Are there any further announcements or comments from
Lots of comments.
I'll be
Vince?
I finally put together the, kind of a summary for the minutes for that last electronic town hall presentation.
Right.
And Rachel has that, and hopefully we can just put that out to the members and see where we go from there.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan to me. Anything further? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Do I hear any opposition? We are adjourned.
Hearing none.
thank you, Jeff.
Your pre-stamped Christmas card.
Very good.
I hope you enjoy it. See you next month.
I am looking forward to that, and I actually hope to be back in the region before.
It can be more fun
Wow.
than today.
It was really close,
contentious.
really close today. This may have been
good. We need
one of the
some
most fun, if not the most fun meeting.
Amen.
Absolutely.
people, otherwise we're not doing our job, in my opinion.
Thanks again. I really appreciate what you said, Kevin, about 24 West.